Yeah.
I saw that.
All right. We're going to call to order the regular meeting of the Larkspur Parks and Recreation Commission. Today is Thursday, February 15th, and the time is approximately 6:30. We're going to start off with a roll call.
Commissioner Harrison?
Here.
Commissioner Baxter?
Here.
Commissioner Sunshine?
Here.
Commissioner Friedel?
Here.
And Chair Capel.
Here. All right. Let's move on to item number 2. This is the public comment section. I'll just read real quickly. Parks and Recreation Commission will hear public comments only on matters over which they have jurisdiction. There will be no commission discussion. The chair will allot no more than 5 minutes to any individual. Unless the chair determines otherwise, the total amount of time allocated to this agenda item will be 15 minutes. I'm imagining most of you are here to discuss pickleball. And if that's the case, this is not the time for you to talk about that. This is the time to talk about anything that's not on the agenda. And the only items on the agenda is pickleball. So if anyone has any non-related pickleball items to bring up, please come up. And if not, move on. But let's check with Director Stone and see if anyone, we have a gentleman back there?
Actually, what I wanted to
Please
bring
come up to the podium. And then just state your name and
Rob Smith, what I wanted to bring up will be related to pickleball, but a little bit different. So one of the issues, of course, is town's growing social issues. And one of the factors I've noticed a lot, and this pertains to the park areas, especially Piper Park, a lot of animals running off leash, a lot. And 2 weeks ago, I had to intercede with a young boy being chased by a pretty ferocious dog. And if it hadn't, I don't know what would have happened to the kids. So it's something that we're going to have to get some kind of law enforcement out there, something to deal with this. Because I know you put a lot of money into a brand new dog park. It doesn't get used. Dogs are off the leash all over that park all the time. And you just have to stand out there yourselves and watch it for 5 hours. And you'll see people, they let their dogs off, they dog walk. I'm a dog lover. We have dogs. When I come out to the park, they're on a leash. We don't let them off. We do that for the benefit of our neighbors and, of course, the liability issue. Make sure we don't get sued for somebody attacked by our dog for some strange reason. Even though he's a great dog, wouldn't bother us so. You don't ever know. But I've seen a lot of that lately. And then it blows over into pickleball because people are coming on the tennis courts and bringing their dogs, and it has to do with pickleball players. And 2.5 weeks ago, friends of ours who are tennis players, they have to clean the excrement off tennis court number 4. So it's like somebody needs to help something. I mean, I know the growing pains of Larkspur, but it's kind of sort of out of control as the town goes.
I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. I know that this is a topic that has been discussed amongst the commission and Director Stone. And Nick, do you have any comments about what's
I can actually comment about this. You can't discuss the issue at hand, so I can address that. And what we've done is we've also noticed a lot of dogs off leash, especially over the last few years, and so that's been a conversation that we've had with police. Last year, police hired 2 code enforcement officers, which I think I told you about maybe at the last meeting, and so the code enforcement officers are out ticketing. They're in charge of they're a split asset between the town of San Anselmo and Larkspur. So they're splitting their time between San Anselmo and Larkspur. They're also in charge of parking enforcement. So at the park, we are seeing not a lot of change in behavior. And so we talked to the police chief, and the code enforcement officers have been making a lot of rounds lately. I saw them actually this evening go out. And I've seen them writing tickets. I know they're writing tickets because I'm getting the complaints about people getting the tickets. So it's a process, and I don't know that we're ever going to catch all the dogs. I mean, I work out there, and there's at any time, I've been, a dozen dogs off leash.
Actually,
And so,
if I can add, this has been going on for a long time, that it's out of control. And I've watched the cadets with the police department come out in the parking lot, and they'll spend more time talking to each other than they do enforcing anything that's going on around them. And you'll see it. They'll sit in their police cars. They don't get out of their cars. They don't walk the grounds. They don't come up to people. Dogs are off the leash. They don't say anything to anybody. So I don't know what you see, but
okay.
as somebody who's in the park all the time, my family comes, our friends come, we have picnics there. There's no enforcement. There's zero enforcement.
I would agree. There's a lot of dogs off leash.
And you're posted
and
everywhere.
we'll-
Signs, please.
Yeah.
Dogs on a leash. Don't be on the grass. Don't be on the grounds, and like I said, they're coming onto the tennis courts with dogs. It's like, I'm a tennis player for 30 years, and in tennis, people don't bring dogs on the tennis court. Never. They're posted. No dogs on the tennis court. And for somebody to have to be a tennis player and clean dog excrement off the tennis court before they can play on it, it's like, help, please. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Nick, if you could just keep us abreast of it.
Yep,
Maybe
absolutely.
the next couple months, see how that goes. Anyone else in the audience for a non-agenda item to be discussed? I don't see anyone. Nick, anyone online?
We don't take public comment
Don't take-
online anymore. Yeah.
Okay. That being the case, let's move on to item number 3. This is the approval of the consent calendar. And these are for the minutes from January 18th of 2024. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, can we get a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye.
Okay, motion passes. Minutes approved.
Okay. Item 4 is the public hearing. There are no items under this item number. So we're going to move on to item number 5, the big topic of evening, which is the pickleball lines at Piper Park. And, Director Stone, if you can just give us a quick synopsis of your very well-written staff report.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a very short presentation for you tonight. First, I'll start with a little bit of the history with Larkspur and pickleball. We were approached in 2019 about starting lessons for pickleball, which we knew was a growing sport, and we had been hearing about for a while. And we had an instructor approach us, and we started offering indoor pickleball lessons with some afterwards some open play time. We did this in the hall gym. The badminton lines that were painted on the courts are actually the same size as pickleball lines. We had some portable nets, and we'd bring them out, and I believe it was a Sunday morning class followed by recreational play. The thing about the gym is it is booked solidly. So there's a lot of basketball, indoor soccer, band practices going on. So it is tough to get a lot of time out there, and we were convinced to potentially bring those lessons outside. And in 2019, later in the year in the summer, we brought that to the Park and Rec Commission, asking for approval to paint 4 pickleball courts onto 1 tennis court, and asking people to BYO nets. And so we've continued to offer lessons out there until the pandemic kind of shut things down, and from then on out, it was mostly open play. Popularity spiked, as you know, during the pandemic, and a lot of people were coming out to Piper and playing. We started to schedule open pickleball time in the afternoons on weekdays, and lines were starting to form, and the rotational system needed to change. So in October of last year, we brought again to the Park and Rec Commission the paddle rack system, rotational system, which I think has been pretty successful so far, which allows people to rotate in and off the courts quicker and efficiently. And during that time, we had a lot of public requests from pickleball players asking to expand our pickleball offerings and availability on the court. which is why we're here today. So right now we have 4 pickleball lines painted on 1 tennis court. There are, since the rotational system was put in place, we actually purchased some rolling nets that are out there now, so people can just show up with their paddles and balls and play out there. So what we are talking about tonight is seeking direction from the Park and Rec Commission on whether or not to add an additional 4 pickleball courts on the adjacent tennis court, which would total 8 pickleball courts at Piper Park. That court would stay a mixed use as court 3 is right now. One of the things that we did to solicit public feedback was a survey that went out. This went out January 12th and was open through February 9th. You can see a photo of one of the boards out. These were posted in bulletin boards as well as on boards like this one outside of each of the entrances. There's a QR code as well as a website link, and that takes you to the survey. We had 194 responses, and the average time to complete was 2 minutes and 43 seconds. So it's a pretty quick survey, but I think we got enough answers in there. We can delve right in. One of the issues, or one of the things that we wanted to look at, is where people were coming from. We did this. I pull up the numbers. I'm sorry, I have it in the staff report. I think 58 of the 194 respondents were within the Larkspur Green Bay area. And what we noticed are a lot of people from the surrounding areas that were also coming to play. This is not just pickleball. This is tennis and pickleball. So so out of 194 responses, 58 were in the Larkspur Green Bay area, and we did verify those names and email addresses, or not those names and addresses. Other notable cities with a lot of attendance or people that filled out surveys were Corte Madera and Kentfield. Very random places too. We got some Seattles, a few Bolinas, some from Richmond. So it was, but again, a very small number of people from truly outside of the area. And we asked people if they played pickleball or tennis. We found that 20 of those responses played both. By and large, the largest number of people that responded to the survey were pickleball. And you can see the numbers here. We also asked people how often they're visiting Piper Park. I thought it was interesting to see that there was over 20 people that visited 5 days a week, which I'm kind of assuming is about 7 days a week. So people that are coming out every day. So we have our diehards for sure. And then the bulk of people are coming between 2 and 4 days a week, which is really good use for a park and facilities. That's if you think about how often you're going to parks on the regular, you know, there's people that are really enjoying coming to Piper. And if we break down the respondents and whether they support more pickleball lines on court 4, it was the same kind of relatively the same across the board, whether people lived in Larkspur Green Bay or whether they came from out of the area, out of the city limits. There seemed to be a similar 60-40 kind of split on this, and we had 3 people that are right in the middle that felt either way would be happy. So so reasons for more pickleball, and this came out in the comment section as well as my interactions with people. Pickleball is the fastest growing sport in America. I think there's no denying that. Marin, let's see, there's people need more places to play. Marin has been slow. I think people would agree with this take, is that there hasn't been a lot of courts in Marin for people to play. And I gave a breakdown in the staff report of places that people could play. There's a couple courts in Albert Park and in Santa Fe. There's 6 in Nevada, which are kind of the premier place. Those are standalone courts. There's some standalone courts in Sausalito as well. And then by and large, and this is actually true across the United States, is that much of the space is shared. So in this case, in Marin, it's shared space with a lot of tennis courts. Other parts of the country I've read shared space with roller rinks, basketball courts, general blacktops at playgrounds. So I think that that across the board, people are struggling to keep up with the demand for pickleball. One of the other pros of pickleball is that it's an age-friendly option. I think I got that there. Yeah. And then people existing, or the people that support the existing setup is there is a difficult, so pickleball is social, it's rotational. And so when court 3 is being used by pickleball during non-scheduled times, when it's not just set for pickleball, it's very hard to rotate on as a tennis player. So that's one of the fears I know with the tennis community, is that if we have another pickleball, a tennis court with pickleballs lines painted on, is that it'll be now hard to rotate on to 2 courts. It's fair to note too that in tennis during key times is that there are long lines for tennis to play at public courts, as well as especially at Piper. So it's not just a pickleball issue where there's lines of people playing pickleball. There are also lines of people playing tennis during peak hours. And another complaint is the noise of pickleball during tennis matches. And we do have a few teams, public teams, that use Piper as their home courts. These teams will often play private clubs, and so they'll go visit private clubs for their home matches, and they host home matches at Piper. And one of the drawbacks of hosting at Piper is that there are pickleball lines on some of the courts that can be distracting to other teams. As a park and rec professional, I love having more courts. I would love to build standalone courts. I would love to have giant playgrounds. And so this is something that comes out in the survey. This is something that we talk about every single day. There's certainly a desire and a want for more courts. There's a few steps before that can happen. As you know, we're starting a Piper Park master plan this spring, and the RFP, I believe, will go out next month for that. And so before we can do anything, it has to be identified in the Piper Park master plan as a need. I have no doubt that that the pickleball community will step up and let their voices be heard in the public process for this. And then we would have to look, we'd have to take all those surveys, people that also want, better softball facilities or soccer facilities, and we kind of weigh all that when we put our plan together. A very unpopular opinion at Piper Park. Piper Park is a huge park. Right now, to drop just two standalone pickleball courts, there's actually not room at Piper to do that without taking away an existing amenity or changing that amenity. And by amenity, I mean maybe a softball field or a soccer field, changing the layout of those. So it becomes a much larger process to add that. From there, it will get added into the capital improvements projects. And there's just some notable projects on there that you guys may have heard about. The new library, City Hall, neighborhood park updates that we're working with the mini parks action plan, as well as the parking lot. I know people will be excited to hear that the parking lot at Piper Park is going to be updated, or not updated, but smoothed out this summer. Because I know it's a brutal drive. So right now, for more pickleball, the only real option right now is multi-use with tennis court in the short term. That's the end of my presentation. I'm happy to field any questions from you guys.
So I think it's in your staff report that Cordillera is proposing, and I want to say it was 100, which is cheap.
Yes, Corte Madera has recently approved 2 standalone pickleball courts to go next to the tennis courts at Town Park. Talking to the director there, they expect those courts to be built this fiscal year. The estimates I saw were, I think, 150 seemed low to me, based on what I've been hearing, but that I've been assured is going to be happening, as well as potentially a couple of courts at Granada, which is also in Corte Madera, kind of East Corte Madera, in a neighborhood.
Any thoughts on what the impact of those courts coming up would do to the 114 pickleballers at Piper Park? That's on your pie chart, like some percentage, a large percentage, don't actually live in Larkspur.
Yeah, I would think that that the community would by and large use more courts. So I don't know that it would affect the players playing at Piper. I would assume so. But more courts would certainly alleviate some of the pressure on Piper.
There are 2 tennis courts at Centennial.
Correct.
Any idea on the usage there? Is there a reason why people that come to Piper, there's not a court available? Do they go to Centennial? Is there a reason not to? Or
yeah, so Centennial was one of the options we talked about as staff in 2019 when we were painting lines. Ultimately, at that time, what we were aware of was neighbor complaints of sound of pickleball, and we decided not to drop pickleball courts in the middle of a neighborhood. The other drawback at Centennial is that there is a lack of public parking during school hours, which would then flow into the neighborhood and could be a point of contention for neighbors. So it's something that we hadn't tackled.
But that does provide 2 dedicated tennis courts.
Correct. So there are
tennis.
correct. So there are 2 tennis courts at Centennial that are open to the public.
But they're not as desirable as the ones at Piper.
For tennis,
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that. I think that they're nice courts, and they're also heavily utilized in the middle of a neighborhood. So there's also a mostly a neighborhood court, I would think, and people in the know.
I'm curious about the 194 responses. Is that kind of at the high end of the response rate that you get for servicing fixed out in the park, or
for something like this is for a single standalone feature, I would say this is about what I was expecting. So this is higher than what I'd expect for most responses regarding a facility. I think I wish I remembered what it was when we did the Niven Park update, but I think it was a similar number.
I have one question for you. Realistically, best case scenario, building courts at Piper Park or elsewhere, if that's 2, 3, 4 years of process?
I couldn't put a time on it. It would really be about what city council decided as far as allocating that money. I could say that things get done quickly with private donations, if somebody were to do that, but outside of a private donation of a sizable amount of money, yeah, it would be measured in the years.
This wouldn't even fall under that.
Um,
It's not an improvement.
this would fall. Yeah, this it would be a. I don't know if I'm pretty sure this would be classified in the capital improvement project because it's an improvement of the park. Yeah.
Any other questions from the commission?
Do you still have the data collection signs out? So
No, we closed those on the 9th of February. Yeah, potentially, yeah.
I see the, thank you, I see the Piper Park tennis court thing is, we're doing tennis lessons? Is someone offering some instruction on the meters?
Correct. So we do have tennis lessons and tennis teams that operate out of Piper Park. We have Leo Giraldi is a longtime tennis instructor contracted by this. Right now it's all drop in. So pre-pandemic, we did have an instructor, George Silva, that was running lessons as a contractor, and stopped when the pandemic happened, and we haven't brought it back at this point.
Okay. If there are no further questions from the commissioners, we're going to open this up to the floor. If you'd like to come up and speak on one side or the other, please do so. Please come up and provide your name and where you live.
Hello, I'm Marcello Bowen, and I live in Larkspur. I'm supportive of painting lines on the pickleball courts, or the court. Well, yeah. Like for example, when I go to open play, a lot of times after school, I don't have as much time. And I have to wait often, sometimes when on a busy day, even for like 30 minutes between matches. So that, I don't have as much playing time and, a lot of waiting and all that. And also like when I come on the weekends, when it's not open play, sometimes I don't get, there's all the courts are taken up. So there's nowhere to play, anything like that. And there's, empty tennis courts. In the survey, it showed more people in support of the tennis court. I mean, the pickleball lines on the tennis court. And so I play, like 2 to 4 days a week. And also, like, even if there was like more pickleball courts available, I think people would still come to Larkspur, Piper, because there's a community that's already built there, and people know like who there. They have some friends, and it's a very inclusive and nice community. Like you just can pop in. I see all age ranges. I see, for kids from the high school or college, sometimes they come in, they got it, all ages. It's, I really do enjoy just playing. And
Well, thank you for speaking, Marcello. Thanks for coming. You've been here a few times now. And
yeah.
Really appreciate your continued interest in this subject. Any questions for me? Thanks.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Malone. I live in Green Bay and go to Larkspur. I am a longtime tennis player. I've been playing at Piper Park for around 20 years. I play there 3 days a week. On the weekends, we have a long standing, like maybe 50 years, open round robin on both weekday mornings. It's already a compromise to have pickleball players taking one of the 4 courts. There aren't, aside from Centennial, this is it. Piper Park, 4 tennis courts and 2 at Centennial. So I have nothing against pickleball players. I think it's a wonderful activity for people. Maybe I'll play it someday, but not till I stop playing tennis. But I think that it's important for those of us who are tennis players and can speak for other tennis players that we don't want to take away the little amount of real estate that we have for tennis. I am a strong advocate for building other courts for pickleball players. And I'm happy to hear that courts are planned for Corte Madera, because I think that when you consider that you get 4 pickleball courts on 1 tennis court. So if you build 2 pickleball courts, you got 2 courts. I'm not quite sure what next is. If there's 1 court, which is 4 courts.
Yeah, we could put 4,
Okay,
yeah,
what
4.
Corte Madera is doing?
Corte Madera is doing 2 standalone pickleball courts.
And so
separate from tennis.
4 on each of those?
No, they're doing 2
Single.
pickleball, 2,
2.
yeah, 2 small pickleball
Okay.
courts, yeah.
So they come in different sizes. And I hope that, I just hope that there is more discussion about the needs for pickleball, but that will take into account the fact that if you take away the very limited resources for we tennis players, we don't have any other alternatives, and nobody's talking about building more tennis courts. I'm obviously a senior, but I play on the weekends and I play on very early Thursday morning, because after that, it's very hard to get on a tennis court over at Piper with the lessons, kids, other utilization of the courts. There aren't lights, so you can't play at night. So I really, really hope that you will think about the variety of needs that obviously are competing here for limited resources and limited space, but you hear my view. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Please, before you go, we have a question for you.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just interested in various courts and why some are utilized and others aren't. College of Marin just built 6 new tennis courts, and are those courts that the public uses, or that your tennis community thinks about using?
I was familiar with the old College of Marin courts. I really can't say what the current status is of those courts. I was by there coming from a work meeting Tuesday, and the parking lot is gigantic and completely full. So you can't even see the tennis courts. So I actually do not know about their availability. Yeah, I don't know.
I would say that I was talking to someone about the facilities out there, and most of them are put off, not always existing. This is something that someone else would be using steps.
I was under the impression that college tennis courts are when they're not being programmed for lessons.
Well, I think technically so are the high school courts, but this doesn't necessarily make them particularly available or convenient.
Right.
I would, since I'm back, I would say the one other thing that I think is a tension between pickleball players and tennis players is that, sort of in line with what the first speaker mentioned, people who play tennis know about the etiquette for tennis. There is not a comparable etiquette for pickleball. So there's a lot of discomfort that can arise. Some people come to play pickleball in the times that I'm at the courts, and it's all fine. Other times it isn't all fine. They walk across your tennis court in the middle of your playing, they don't care. We say, oh, there's a gate for you right over by the corner of the ticket. They don't care, walk right across the court. So, I think maybe that's an incidental here, but pickleball does have its own vibe. And I think they deserve to have space to play. There's a lot of people who play. So I just hope there's some other solution to this. What I already said.
Thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Joanne Blondin. I live in Corte Madera. I have been captain of 2 teams out of Piper Park for 17 years. And I also play there recreationally 3 times a week. I've appreciated so much the availability of the courts, the how welcoming the Park and Rec was for us. We have, as a public court team, we've won whole divisions and beaten private clubs. And these are people who don't belong to private clubs. We're just public courts people, and we love it. The pickleball lines on the courts, I appreciate it. I know how popular it is. It is a little more difficult to play tennis with the extra lines on the court. And right now there are 4 pickleball courts at Piper. And so there are 3 tennis courts. 4 pickleball courts, 3 tennis courts. Oftentimes when I'm there are lessons on 2 of the courts and pickleball on 1 of the courts. That leaves 1 court available for recreational players. If there are 2 pickleball courts and lessons on 2 courts, that leaves no courts available for recreational players. I would hope that there could be some way that there could be, although Nick says it'll be years before they could do a real pickleball thing. But another thing that's interesting is you talk about the parking. This is a little aside. The parking is, I think we got to talk about the Redwood people who park there. Because often when we have matches and people come down from Napa and Sonoma for our matches, and there's no place for them to park because the Redwood kids are parking there at Piper. But that's an aside. But anyway, we exist with the pickleball people now. We have a great time. I know some of them who play. I didn't know them before. We say hi, we talk. But they have 4 courts. Tennis has 3. And sometimes if you make another court, a pickleball court, and there are 2 lessons, there's no place for just the regular people to come and play tennis. Thank you.
Thanks. Any questions? Thank you.
Please. I'm Smith again. So now I'm going to move to tennis courts. Thanks for listening to me about the issue with the dogs. That I think is going to be a big problem and a liability big time for the park if you're not really careful. The tennis court situation. My family, we've been coming here for almost 3 decades, and we've been around the park all the time. We play tennis forever. We like all kinds of sports. Kids are out on the fields. We have family members that play pickleball. We have no issue with it. I'm not a pickleball hater, and I'm not really a great tennis lover. And there are as many probably obnoxious tennis players in the world as there are other folks. But in this particular instance, the layout of those courts, they're tight together. The noise factor that comes back from behind the police station into the parking lot. And now I didn't add another element with the dog park out front of the tennis courts on the corner. So you have the dogs barking there. When the pickleballers first came into the court, I thought a lot of them that we met, my wife met, her friends met, they were tennis players. So as the lady mentioned, the etiquette follows the tennis players. They're a little bit calmer. They don't yell quite as loud. They don't swear as much, perhaps, as pickleballers have been doing lately. So it seemed like a calmer environment on the courts. But as the time progressed, it's gotten louder. When you go to the pickleball courts now, anytime during the day, I've seen as many as like 30 people out there at once on one side of a court and court 3. And when that happens, the noise level goes up through the roof. If you could run a decibel meter, you'd find out that it's like, you can't even hear yourself think when you're playing tennis, much less hear what your opponent's got to say across the court. So the social issues are kind of squeezing the city. We understand. It's like, I think a lot of pickleball players are great folks. A lot of the ones that came over from tennis, joints are worn out, arms don't work, knees don't work. They're finding pickleball as a saving grace. I know at one point my wife says she swears she's going to play pickleball. So it is happening. It is part of life. We understand. And I think there's room for everybody. But I think there's some educational process here because pickleballers, the younger kids are bringing boom boxes to the courts. And all you can hear, they're playing rock and roll music, they're playing all kinds of things while you're trying to have a tennis game. The dogs that are coming onto the court, the other issues, it seems like somehow it has to be some kind of a nice middle ground where everybody understands there's kind of this etiquette thing for tennis, and maybe pickleballers can kind of respect that more and find some middle place. As far as expanding the pickleball on the courts, if you had 2 courts dedicated to pickleball and you now had 60 people on the court, it would be insane. I mean, you wouldn't be able to get anything done, hear yourself think, talk to anybody. It's as loud as it is now. And keep in mind, you have the dogs right behind that in the background that are barking. And now people are bringing their animals to the pickleball courts, and the dogs are barking at the tennis balls going by. They're barking at the people playing pickleball. It's nuts. And you just have to stand around during the afternoon. You don't even, with a clipboard, you could sit there for 3 hours and watch it all take place. So somehow there's maybe some middle ground here. I don't know that expanding and adding another court dedicating to pickleball service is going to really take any of this stress away that's out there right now. And I think you'll see that. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Hi again. Michael Bowden, 43 Briar Road, Enfield, Larkspur. We pay like our taxes to Larkspur. So I'd just like to first of all thank Nick for such a great job of doing the appraisal of this whole situation. It was really nice. And I've been a tennis player for many years. I essentially played pickleball now. So I can appreciate it. I played at Piper for many, many years, and I can appreciate the ambiance that has when there's just tennis there. At the same time, looking at this pickleball thing that's booming, right? And I would say I might not be too far off to say probably a usage of in a given month, probably about 10 to 1 in terms of the number of people that actually use the whole facility there playing pickleball. 10 to 1 for tennis. I would guess, but probably in that area, just so many people getting in there. So there's this huge demand. I guess technically, those with the roll-on courts, there are still 4 tennis courts available, right? If you move the
If there's no pickleball players.
If there are no pickleball.
if there are, so it could be down to perhaps designated times for one or the other. Maybe especially on this expanded court, if you go that direction, that there'd be a time frame where that's, it's tennis priority type of thing. So if someone was playing pickleball and at that particular time, someone wanted to play tennis, that they would say, this is our court to play. That's a possibility. I know that, with the rolling nets came out, it just kind of freed up the ability for all sorts of people to play that weren't playing before. They didn't have to drag their nets out there to set them up. So we're not having that much of a, maybe that's kind of changed the ambiance, I don't know, somewhat. And I think we could probably, within the pickleball community, definitely help educate pickleball players about etiquette and to be mindful in that way. What else? Oh, I guess, ultimately I'm seeing, we have a possibility of a great pickleball venue there at Piper Park. I don't know if you ever spoke to George about this, but he kind of felt like 10 permanent courts, dedicated courts, were like a sweet spot for tournaments. And there's a possibility with that of actually having kind of a pickleball forum in such a way that for regional tournaments and things like that, that could be possibly beneficial to the community in terms of income and what that it could bring in, things like that. I was a little disappointed in part of the year, they only went with 2 courts. They have roof in there. It's like, but the reason was, well, we don't want the other towners coming to play. So, I think I like the location with Piper because I think the noise level, because of where it's situated, would not be too impactful on the residents in there. There's enough auditory space there.
Well, thank you. Before you go, is there any questions from any commissioners? Thanks so much for this.
Hi, I'm Tracy Van Hooser. I live in Tiburon, and I love playing pickleball at Piper Park. I found it to be a wonderful community, and I've met so many terrific people from all backgrounds and all ages, and it's just been a wonderful addition to my life. And I don't really think of it as one pickleball court and three tennis courts, because pickleball times don't even start till after 1 in the afternoon, according to the schedule that's posted. And I know I've tried to come a little bit earlier, and often the courts are still taken by tennis. So we just have to wait till 1. So definitely that court is still usable by tennis and is. And yeah, the lines are not awesome. It's not awesome as a pickleball player to always be playing with tennis lines too, but that's kind of how it is when you have to share limited resources. And as you saw in the photo of the paddle rack, which has been super helpful, so thank you. It's hard when you've got so many people waiting to play to keep track of whose turn it is, and so the paddle rack is very helpful. And as you saw in the photo, the rack is often full, and people are standing, along the fence trying to find a room to stand out of the way of the play, and to have the other court lined would really alleviate that congestion and just get people playing instead of waiting, like Marcello was saying. And often when I'm only there to play pickleball, so I'm only there in the afternoon, and oftentimes when that rack is full and people are waiting, there's 1, 2, or maybe all 3 tennis courts empty. And so to me, it just feels like wasted space that could be used to be, multi-use, as Court 3 is. So I'm not there in the morning. I don't know, maybe it's super busy in the morning, but in the afternoon when I come, there's a lot of empty space, and it just feels silly that we're all standing there waiting our turn when there is an empty court right next to us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Eric Bowen, Larkspur. Lovely to see you all again, and thank you very much for investing so much time in this topic. Also want to echo Michael's comments and gratitude for Nick, Director Stone, and all the great work you've been doing for months and months now, and really quality presentations that you put together for today's meeting. I do want to emphasize some of the things that have already been said, but just to make sure we're all got shared facts, right? There's 4 tennis courts currently at Piper Park. One of them, Court 3, is multiple use. So the way I think about that is there's 3 exclusive tennis courts and 1 shared court. Now, the shared court can be used for tennis or it can be used for pickleball. There's been countless times where we'll have, all 4 pickleball courts on Court 3 occupied, and as Tracy just mentioned, long waits of people waiting to pay with an empty Court 4 sitting right there. And it is just a little bit frustrating. And again, we've been asking the pickleball community to be patient with the Parks and Rec Commission and patient with Nick to go through a proper consultative process with the public. And it was great that so many people responded. And it was pretty clear to me that the overwhelming number of people would like to see shared use. At the end of the day, everybody agrees it would be a better situation to have a set of dedicated pickleball courts and a set of dedicated tennis courts. The question is, before that day arrives, how do we share a scarce public resource? The pickleball community isn't asking for the removal of tennis courts at Piper Park. The pickleball community is asking for the sharing of tennis courts at Piper Park. So for me, it seems abundantly clear as we figure out how to share a scarce resource that sharing is the right thing to do, and keeping 3 courts exclusively tennis, while pickleball has 1 shared court with the number of players that are out there, just doesn't reflect community use and doesn't feel fair. Happy to answer any questions the commission might have about any of these things going on. But really, again, You guys have all been great in your engagement on this issue and the multiple meetings we have. So I'm hopeful and optimistic that we'll come away tonight moving in a positive direction. And if there's things that still need to be explored, maybe we keep exploring those, and happy to continue to stay engaged in that process and help anything I can. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Please come up.
May I speak up too? I am not from, I live in Tiburon. My name is Krista Keeling, and I've spent the last 2.5 months in Brazil where my son lives. Pickleball last year was not known. I was playing against the garage wall and people thought I was crazy. But anyway, this year, the city donated the land for 2 pickleball courts. It was amazing. And the welcome pickleball has received is unbelievable. There are now, I think, over 100 people in, just since I started down there 2 months ago. I financed the courts, but the city donated them, the property. And there are public court, tennis courts, private tennis courts. And now there is, like from the city owned, anyone can come and play 2 pickleball courts, and it's super well received. And it's not taking anything away from tennis. It's just adding to the community. Even the mayor came to town to the court and thanked me personally. I couldn't believe it. It was very, very touching to see the reception we are getting. Something that was not known just 2.5 months ago. And it's only growing. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to come up and speak?
Hi, my name is John George. I live in San Anselmo, and I use the courts at Piper 2, 3, sometimes up to 4 days a week, depending on availability and my schedule and whatnot. I'm also a tennis player. I've been playing tennis and coached tennis for years. I'm currently a certified pickleball instructor. I have not witnessed any of the improper behavior that was mentioned priorly. I'm not there all the time. I'm not there on weekends. I've never heard a radio there on the courts before. I've never heard any foul language. When I'm there, I would certainly encourage proper etiquette of tennis or pickleball. Basically it, unless there's any other questions.
Questions? Thank you.
I forgot to mention one thing. I have been there many times, many times, when there has been an instructor on the pickleball courts that wasn't sanctioned by the city. And I have talked to them and said, I don't think you're supposed to be instructing on these courts. And it has been more than one. And I think if you have more courts, you're going to get more of that. And they're not paying rent. They're not renting the courts like I had to do when I was captain of the teams. And they are instructing people and being paid for that instruction. And somehow that needs to be taken care of.
Thank you.
Could I also add 2 things?
Sure.
As I mentioned, my primary use is on the weekends plus 1 weekday morning. I work in the afternoon. So I'm hearing that this utilization question seems to have something to do with scheduling. I'm not aware that the tennis courts aren't being used on weekday afternoons. I'm happy to hear that, actually, for the sake of pickleball players. But maybe if you're looking at restricted use and to get better shared use, you might look more closely at, when use is occurring. So our tennis round robin, which as I say, has a 50-year history and it's completely open, is strictly a weekend activity. I don't know, I do know that the tennis lessons are certainly on weekday mornings, and I don't know about the rest of that schedule. The two other things, I mentioned that I know about the Centennial Courts. The Centennial Courts are not comparable, in my opinion, to the Piper Park courts. They are not as, the surface is not as good, and I don't think they've been updated as recently, and to the best of my knowledge. They're good enough, but they're not, I wouldn't go there first. The parking is certainly a question, but then the parking is a question where we are. The other thought I had was, if you're looking for a cost-effective solution and you can't afford to build pickleball courts at the moment, you might look at putting lights on Piper Park, because then you could expand the time frame in which the courts could be used by all players. So, just a thought.
We're still open for anyone who wants to make comments. Please come on up. I'm not seeing anyone looking to come up. If that's the case, we're gonna close the public comment section. Nick, I take it the people online are still not available. They're not allowed to speak.
Correct. Yeah. Public comment is written or in person. Yeah.
Okay. Before we open this up to commission discussion, I just want to say that I really appreciate that you all came here tonight, and that the civil discourse can still happen, that people can still have differences of opinions and be respectful of each other, and I commend you all for that. Having said that, I want to open it up to commission discussion, and whoever would like to lead off, please go ahead.
I think one of the things that struck me from the various testimonies and statistics that we've heard tonight was that the courts get a lot of usage, but there do seem to be downtime. So I'd be curious if we had statistics that talked about, you know, peak pickleball hours versus peak tennis hours. So if we were to look at how they break down over the course of the week, tennis usage.
Yeah, statistics of people that are actually coming on. I don't have that available. We'd have to start taking that. I do have statistics on court space available and the schedule. The schedule was brought up a couple of times. So we do schedule tennis lessons. Tennis lessons generally happen weekday mornings. We also have tennis teams that practice and use Piper as their home matches. Generally, lessons are I mean, they're scheduled. They're regular. They're, you know, Mondays from 9 to 10:30 for beginners, and then 10:30 to 12 for semi-beginners. Home matches are a little bit different. They can be on a Friday here, a Tuesday there, a Wednesday there. So they're kind of sprinkled throughout the month. And then right now, it's a full calendar. It's a lot. Right now, pickleball, mostly I've been speaking with Michael and Eric, who are in the audience tonight, and we've adjusted the open pickleball time. I think when we started it, there weren't specific times for open pickleball, and that went from, and then it went to 2 days a week, and then 3 days a week, and now we're at 5 days a week, 1 o'clock to dark, I believe is what it says. Yeah. So there is some room for working on the schedule and adding times that we could do. When it's not scheduled, that is when it's truly the mixed use time. So when it is not scheduled for tennis or pickleball, that is the time where it's first come, first serve. And then, sorry, the other part of your question. So as far as usage, I think what we generally see, what I see a lot, again, I'm there Monday through Friday, during working hours, it's packed with tennis during the mornings. So those are lessons and public coming into play. And then the weekdays, you'll see a lot of pickleball in the evenings, and the later it goes, a lot of the times that court 4 is not being used at tennis. So that's kind of the time that I think people are referring to is the weekdays in the afternoons where tennis is not at peak hours and court 4 stands sometimes empty. Tonight it wasn't. Tonight there was people playing tennis on it, but that's kind of what is being referred to as far as usage. Yeah.
Discussion?
Has everybody thought of moving the tennis classes, lessons, something?
We have had lessons out there, and we occasionally when there's impacted like maybe there's court resurfacing or repairs that are going on, we'll move lessons to Centennial. We've also sometimes home matches get rescheduled due to rain, and then lessons have to move. So we have done that. We don't regularly schedule lessons at Centennial, and that's kind of a long-standing understanding that we've had with residents out there that kind of predates me, to be honest.
Something that comes to my mind that I really brought up was there's a lot that happens in Piper, and I'm at Piper 3 times a week with a dog on a leash. And I'm concerned about parking too. I mean, if we're talking about more activity, tennis and pickleball are not the only 2 activities. And there's oftentimes that I go to that park and you circle, you think the parking out of the park, which is fine. You're going there to walk or exercise and really walk. Because there isn't a problem, but I mean, I'm concerned. I feel it's parking an issue that we thought about again, another park, another activity level of pickleball that brings in more pickleball players. And I'm looking at these numbers and that's not right. And it seems like I get that Piper Park is regional. I often fight for Piper to be regional, but the number of Larkspur Green Bay residents is less than the sum of people coming from outside of Piper. And so they are most likely driving there. They're not walking through the community. So what do we think about the parking issue?
Asking me. Yeah, and then the soon to be paved parking lot. I would assume that it would get some more traffic with more courts available. Again, it would be a higher concentration on one tennis court. With assuming a full 2 pickleball courts would be a higher concentration of people than just tennis. Parking at Piper is always hit and miss. I know.
So
Yeah, it is seasonal. Springtime is when it really starts to pick up, and we see that every evening with parents dropping off for soccer practice, lacrosse practice, softball, tennis, volleyball, jogging, whatever it is. The parking is pretty much full every weekday evening and all day during the weekends.
as far as the parking, however, if part of what we're trying to do is accommodate people that are waiting for people, and those people are already and they're standing, they could actually contribute to noise that becomes distracting versus people perhaps who are playing. So I'm not sure it's going to be a significant increase in parking if part of the goal is to try to accommodate those folks that are waiting 30 minutes to be able to get on to the physical.
Correct.
But painting those 4 additional courts, all of a sudden it could become this more of a magnet, and then there could be more people coming, not just the people who are.
It could, but it also will perhaps relieve the people who are standing around waiting. I mean, we've heard at least a couple of people say as many as 30 people waiting to get onto a pickleball court. So if those people are already there and they're lingering about, one, we're trying to accommodate that demand, and yes, it may also bring additional. But we know there's a demand, or we're hearing there's a demand for additional pickleball.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that would be one issue that we're trying to address.
I guess I'm caught between yes, I understand I get the mentality, it seems pretty even, yeses and nos, and it's been on the agenda, people have come up to me and talked about it. I'm wondering if there isn't other ways to facilitate the extra meeting, different hours, people brought up, scheduling different, someone brought up, the English gentleman brought up, we're not using the afternoon, we changed it, our first speaker, the young gentleman who spoke so eloquently, he comes after school, so there's a bigger need then, and the tennis isn't being used then, because tennis is more of a morning situation. Could we, sorry to put this on you, but is there more scheduling we could look at?
I think right now the big issue that we're looking at is the weekdays in the afternoons, which is already scheduled for open pickleball on court number 3. So I don't know how I would schedule that part differently to accommodate more pickleball players. That makes sense.
And can you go to what happens on the weekends in terms of schedule?
Weekends generally first come, first serve. Yeah, and there's occasionally lessons or matches that are played on weekends, but generally first come, first serve for most of the courts.
You don't reserve any courts on the weekends
for tennis lessons and matches. They would be reserved. Yeah.
How does that work when, say, 2 pickleball games are going on half of court 3, and then there are people waiting?
So that's the challenge with the rotational nature of pickleball, is that if there are 2 games of pickleball going on and a tennis player were to wait for those courts, potentially somebody could come on and start another pickleball game on one of the empty slots. I think that if people are expressing that they're waiting for that court, then I would like to think that people would do the right thing and allow the next person on. But the argument on the other side is, can't you wait for one of the courts that are tennis only?
So just hypothetically, potentially you could have 3 of the pickleball courts in use, i.e. 12 people potentially, right? 4 people per court. And 2 people wanting to play tennis there could be waiting, but all those to be cleared out. So those two people could then take all that space, or not that space
during unscheduled time. Yeah.
Unscheduled.
So
what percentage of?
Oh, that would be a lot of math really quickly. On the weekends, I don't have pickleball scheduled, so that's an area that we could increase pickleball only time on court 3. As far as the weekdays, they're pretty much already set that way.
There's been a lot of discussion of shared use, community resource, but the tennis community would be losing court 4 in the afternoons, Monday to Friday, because it would be, if we paint those lines, it's going to be pretty much dedicated to pickleball for both courts 3 and 4. There's no, during those hours, there's no sharing of that court, correct? That would really be up to however many people are playing. The rule that I had thought that we would do is, condense to court 3 when more people are there, then spill out to court 4. So on days where maybe there weren't as many pickleball players, they would just stay on 3, and then tennis could potentially use 4 if it was not scheduled as
as open pickleball time.
Now you're scheduling tennis.
It's a lot of scheduling. Yeah.
Discussion? Share our thoughts with each other, or do you want to move to closing discussion and moving to a vote?
Let me ask one more question.
Mm-hmm.
I know that was a little bit of a compromise. If you line court 4 and put the nets on court 4, so it's kind of your primary pickleball quad, and then leave the lines on 3 and have 3 kind of be your overflow one. That way there's a little buffer if 3 is not being used from the tennis courts. So you got your pickle people down at the end, and maybe that would alleviate some of the noise and distraction. And if you had 3 be a bring your own net, so it's not as convenient as a pickleball player to go there unless you have your own net and you set up your own net. That might deal a little bit with the we're concerned more people are going to come if we line it. If we line it, they will come. Kind of a theory. Is that at all a viable option?
It's a possibility. When we had initially explored which courts to line, court 3 was the court that we chose because court 4 is next to a deck that was built by an Eagle Scout, which generally the teams use as their kind of resting area where they water and snacks and stuff for the tennis team. So that was why it was initially chosen court 3. I would have to explore that option again.
I have a question about the idea of pilot. I mean, you can put restripe and always take them away. So what's the feasibility of, should we propose to stripe court 4 or an additional tennis court for pickleball and see what the usage is and what the impacts are on parking and noise and the rest of the community, and call it a pilot program for the, I don't know what our timing is, but for the summer, and reevaluate in 6 months. Is that a feasible option here? And of course, we'd have to develop criteria, evaluative criteria, but
it's possible. I would probably refrain from wanting to paint those lines on if it was just a trial, because taking up that paint is not, it creates a surface that would then have to, I think, be resurfaced over, which then is what I believe would happen. It would turn into a big job to then potentially paint back over them.
so are there temporary lines?
So there's tape, there's chalk. We could explore those options. All are temporary options that don't damage the courts.
Bring your own net.
I think that would have to be the case in that case. I mean, first of all, I think like all of us collectively, the fact that we have scarce resources and scarce real estate, and there's so much joy of going out and playing whatever sport we play together publicly, I think is such a testament to our community and reasons why we're here. So it's a very painful situation, and hopefully we can, we'll all collectively be really conscious of and look for additional opportunities through the master planning process and private fundraising and things like that. I mean, I keep on thinking about that big empty store across the street that could be indoor pickleball for on a temporary basis. Just throwing that out there. Lucky.
Oh, lucky.
Indoor.
Yeah, indoor. Yeah.
With lighting, bathrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know would be a lot of steps. Anyway, so I just wanted to state that, and to really thank everybody for coming. I think that we don't know what all the impacts are going to be, but we know the community's there. And I'm a little, I appreciate you raising the issue of parking, but it seems like if we've got the demand there, we should try to find a way to meet it in a as equitable manner as we possibly can, acknowledging that there is no additional real estate at this point. So that's why I was thinking about the pilot program, just to see what those impacts would be. You know, I'm moved by the survey, which was pretty clearly overwhelmed, you know, said that those who filled it out would like to see more pickleball. I think that, you know, I'm also moved by the sheer numbers, you know, you can get 16 people on the same real estate as 4 people, and I'm just not saying one versus the other, but it just feels like we've got this incredible demand out there, and if there is a way to accommodate a shared schedule with striping another court, I would be, you know, I'd be really open to a creative solution there.
I think I'd be agreeable to a pilot program with some parameters. I think something that was brought up several times was the sound. So would there be a way to get this movie out there and judge the sound? It's just, I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but if it's going to be a problem, it puts a small onus on you. But I mean, I would be, like I said, I think this should be going to spring. And I do think parking is going to be an issue as we go into spring and more sports are played in that park. Right now we're in winter, a lot isn't played on that. So I think we'll see an uptake in that. But a pilot program for a couple of months with some sort, if that was feasible, with some sort of temporary money, because I think you're right. I think it's down and tired of that.
What's the situation with amplified sound reports?
There's no amplified sound allowed in the park without a city permit.
Somebody shows up on a tennis court or a pickleball court or a shared court, and they bring a blue box out, that's not okay, and the code enforcement officer or the police ought to respond and say, turn it off, right?
Correct, yeah.
And is it posted as such?
Yes. Yeah, one thing is clear to me tonight that more signage and bigger signage would help. Rules are posted out there, but there's clearly some issues with etiquette that aren't necessarily rules that would benefit all.
I think if we did it as a pilot, we would have to have some means of monitoring it or being able to get feedback.
We have to have the metrics.
Yeah, what data we're looking for and figuring that out. I don't want to, knowing you don't have an extensive staff of people standing out there and counting folks, but I think that would be part of what we want to understand.
Yeah, we could come up with some metrics to measure that if that's the way that was chosen tonight. Yeah.
I just keep thinking about the fact that pickleball is not some fad that's going to go away. It's here. It's only growing in popularity. And if we're going to do this, then I think we should just do it. If we paint them, and for some reason we think that it should be used as a pickleball court, we can just change the usage of that court, right?
The commission wanted to make that decision. Yeah.
Made the determination that this isn't really working. We're going to go back to dedicating 4 to 10s, even though the lines were there. But obviously, it would not be the best choice for the tennis players. It would confusing to play on those 10 courts. But I'm just kind of thinking if we're going to do this, and of course, this is subject to a vote. But if we're going to do it, I'm more let's just do this and not mess around with the stopgap measure. That's kind of how I'm feeling. Pilot versus more of a permanent.
I probably lean that way as well. To me, I think what you were saying about the number of people that can shared resource, the numbers would dictate that you try to accommodate as many people as possible to use the resources. So I would probably lean towards.
And I agree. I agree that it's not going anywhere, and someone brought up the reference, I sort of equated to everyone who did, well, 50%, it's everyone who did snowboarders, and now it's a public sport. So I get it, I see the irony there, but I also think that, you know, we have precious real estate, and Madeira is putting in 2 new parts, and we're servicing the region, not just our community. And I'd like to see some more metrics before we permanently change a court.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with a lot of the things. I would like to see some etiquette signage there. I think putting a toe in the water, proving moving forward cautiously never hurts, but there is something to commitment on this. It is the fastest growing sport in America. 1 in 6 Americans plays the sport. And I think being able to accommodate the majority of people, which I think are statistics from the show 2/3 of the users. That's important. Both parties. I'd also like to see more stats on by hours. There's something we could schedule it so the tennis folks could have their share, and then we could accommodate 2/3 or stats. Use the stats to adjust the hours. Who gets it?
Yeah, I think that, you know, I look at the scheduling already, and, you know, we heard a comment that someone may or may not be out there coaching when they're not supposed to because they haven't paid for their benefit. I think that, you know, Nick and his 1-man staff cannot monitor scheduling on the courts.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's why, and I like that you're trying to find a middle road, but I don't want to go permanently with them with metrics, because what you do permanent metrics say that doesn't prove you gotta get the stripes down.
Yeah.
I don't think waiting a couple of months of metrics. And we may come back here in 3 months and say, absolutely, this is absolutely been proven, sound levels down, there's no problems getting along, they're really about parking, and Shangri-La out there. And let's paint the court.
What are you guys' thoughts on the opening of these other pickleball facilities within the vicinity of Piper Park? The Fort Madera ones, there's another set in San Rafael, I believe, out of McGinnis that's going to be opening, potentially some other ones over there. That might affect.
Well, I mean, that's part of my perspective. I get that Piper is regional, it always has been, and we use that in our argument that it's regional arguments before, so I don't want to use it the other way, but a fair amount of more people who are not from Larkspur are using courts. So yes, the stats are saying more people want it, but they're also not people who are Larkspur.
It seems that it's both tennis and pickleball.
Yeah, I mean,
it's being used regionally for both pickleball and tennis. Yeah, which is very interesting.
And it's further outside of the future of figure like the 5 programs, Kenfield and Nevada and Del Valle, Tiburon, and those aren't necessarily the 5 pros. Central America, fire services, services.
Yes, question back on the scheduling. Are you asking, are we being asked also to, should we, vote to restrike either temporarily or permanently, court four? What would be the scheduling? Would it be the same scheduling hours at 1 to dusk?
Yeah, scheduling is typically something that falls under my purview to schedule and my staff. So
So you can be flexible.
so can be flexible scheduling those. I can increase times. I can decrease times based on use, which is what I've typically done. Yeah.
I think it's really important to make sure that we accommodate the tennis community as well. And maybe there's, I'll leave it up to you to figure out what the right balance is. If we were to restrike court four, making sure that the tennis community is not forgotten. I think that's very important, no matter what we do.
Absolutely.
We can continue to discuss. I'll entertain a motion if you want to make a motion. Sounds like we have two alternate plans here. One calls for a pilot program that would put some type of temporary or non-permanent markings on the court four. We have a first vote on that, or we entertain any motion anyone wants to make at this point, if we're through discussing. I don't want to rush things here.
I'll make a motion because that was the way I sort of approached it. I'll make a motion to temporarily strike court for as a pilot program running. I don't know when it could be done, but like running through the summer and fall with an assessment sometime at the end of sometime in the late fall. With hours to be determined by you.
Okay.
Do we have a second?
A second.
All in favor?
Yeah, we can do a roll call. So so to be clear, we're Commissioner Sunshine has made a motion to temporarily stripe court four for a period of time up to me. Maybe. Correct. Yeah. Okay.
We get,
okay.
and we get statistics during that time frame, so we could adjust and understand usage.
Yes. Yeah. We can look at what statistics are attainable. Yeah. With a report on this. Yes. Yeah. Okay, perfect. All right. So we have the motion. And then yeah, we'll vote. So Commissioner Sunshine? Aye. Commissioner Friedel? Commissioner Harrison?
Very calm.
Yeah.
I'm going to go nay.
Commissioner Baxter?
I'm going to I think I'm going to give an aye for this one.
And Chair Capel?
Nay.
Motion passes 3-2. So I will bring so we'll look at temporarily striping court number 4, and I'll bring a report to you all in March with suggestions on how we measure the usage and how we manage what's happening.
Is there any precedent for this? Was court 3 striped, temporarily, or was that just gone ahead and you painted it?
It was court 3 was the one that would have least impact on tennis at the time.
Right, but what I'm asking is, you didn't do any tape or anything initially, and then you went straight to paint.
I think we did chalk for a little bit for the lessons in the interim. Yeah. So we did chalk lines. Yeah. So I'm going to look into options for temporarily striping court 4. Chalk is difficult because it fades, and the rain obviously gets rid of it. So
If we come back, yeah, having ice, it's like pilot program ice, because I remember the chalk, but you know, if there are other options, we'd like to.
okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, I'll bring that back in March. Yeah.
What about the issue of nets? Will we purchase nets?
My plan is to not purchase nets right now. So it would be a BYO nets. I think from what I've heard a lot in the pickleball community is that people have the nets because they've gotten so used to using them at Piper. So again, I think that'll be part of the temporary situation.
And I take it that was your plan all along, no matter if it was temporary or permanent.
Correct. Yeah.
And you feel as though it's feasible for you, budgetary wise, you know, you're going to be able to do this?
I think as long as our expectations on how we measure this are set at a reasonable level, I think it'll be fine. Yeah.
I think that closes out this business item. Thank you very everyone for coming. I hope this solution is something we can all live with. I encourage you to the tennis community and the pickleball community to get back to us with your feedback in regards to how things are going, since it looks like we're going to be in all likelihood looking at this again probably in the late summers or fall. And in the meantime, you know, happy paddling, and I hope that it all works out. Thanks all for coming. You're more than welcome to stay. We have a few more items on the agenda, but I'd imagine at this point most will want to make a quick case. Thanks again for coming. Sure.
You can email me. You can email me. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Audience is clear. We are going to move on to item number 6, the director's oral report.
Thank you. Light report today. We're working on, Gianni is working on the brochure. It's our first, as I mentioned before, it's our first brochure back since COVID. We're excited about the new layout. I think it's going to be great. It's a work in progress. It's a new design, new size, and everything. So, and we're also going to be pulling in a lot of different departments from the city to put some community information in there, as well as Corte Madera. So it's exciting. It's real rough right now, but I have a feeling it's going to be shaping up in the next couple of weeks, and I'm excited for it. We're hoping that hits homes in early March, mid-March, and that'll be in time for the flashlight egg hunt, which will be happening. Supposed to have this day for you. It'll be happening March 30th this year. Sorry, March 29th, Friday, March 29th at Piper Park. The hope is to have it on the big grass field, which would be a first for us, assuming that the field dries out. And then the next morning we'll be up bright and early. We're going to do the spring egg hunt. We're going to team up with the town of Corte Madera again and offer that at Town Park. So that'll be at 10 a.m. and we'll have photos with the bunny and a giant egg hunt out there. And it's a good reminder because I have to order the eggs now. I think we're looking at flashlight egg hunt 8:30. Yeah. And so we're looking at, between the two events, probably 12 to 13,000 candy stuffed eggs. So and they get to live in my office for a couple months. Yeah. And then I am heading down in a couple weeks. The CPRS is the professional organization, California Park and Rec Association, and they're having conference in Palm Springs. And for the first time, my schedule has lined up that I am able to go. So for the first time in my career, I'm going to conference at CPRS. I've been to conferences before in my time with the Y, so I think it's a similar type situation out there. A lot of cool vendors. I will be really excited to look at the vendors and specifically play surfaces and stuff like that. I think is exciting. So especially as we're talking about multi-use facilities, there's a lot of cool things out there for making things multi-use and making it easier. So I know that some of these places have started to adapt to pickleball. So it'll be interesting to get some reports on that. And that is all I have.
Well, be sure to keep us abreast of what you find.
Yes.
I hope hope the weather's nice for you and you're able to pack a bathing suit.
Very excited for that. Yeah.
Recreation professionals at work.
Yes.
How fun is that?
I've never been to a CPRS. I've heard about them. I think. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So, very excited. Yeah.
That's it for
That's
you?
it for me. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. We are going to move on to the commissioner report.
City Council on Wednesday voted to continue their approval of the contract with Alton for the library and added 1,400 square feet of community space, 16, something like that. 1,600 square feet. So the city approved, city council approved 1,600 feet of community space that would be alongside the library space. Like
Skipping real estate.
yeah. And that just because they'll be the best deal, for their, construction.
And that's a dedicated space.
Dedicated community. I want to say it's 14 or 16 square feet.
5.7. 4.6. All right.
So
that's great.
The library got some community space.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because for so long it was a library / community center, and then for fundraising reasons they kind of focus more on the library side of things. It's great to see that it's truly going back. Going to be sort of a multi-use.
Well, I mean, they could be cooling centers, charging around, power outages. They can be different lighting. Help with all those things.
Yeah. Need more space.
And the commissioner have a report for us? Well, I do. I have something. This week, maybe it's today or earlier this week, there was an interesting article in Chronicle about the sport of paddle. P-A-D-E-L. Paddle is it's an well, yeah, I think it's an interesting read, and I suggest that commissioners and Nick, it's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. So that's what the article's about that court. It's something that was started in Mexico, and it's interesting to go onto YouTube and
what is it?
So it's kind of a combination of squash, racquetball, and highlight. Like the court, it on the back side and part of the sides. So the back end and a little bit of the side is in plexiglass, and so you use like a kind of like a pickleball paddle, although it looks like it has holes in it, but it uses like a smaller tennis ball, and they whack the crap out of this thing, and it's this crazy sport, and it's very, very popular. And yeah, the people are running all over the place. The ball is bouncing off the back. It's very active. The only thing I've only seen it one-on-one.
The down at Justin Herman, I've never seen it.
Double.
Yeah.
It's all
I
one-on-one.
can imagine like
It's single.
well, I guess it's squash. You put two people on the court. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, anyhow, from what I hear, paddle, is quite the craze in Europe. There's professional leagues in Spain. Spain seems to be one of the main countries where it's really taking off, but it's coming to the United States. You know, it's already arrived. You know, there's courts in San Francisco. I heard a rumor, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard a rumor that the theater on Tamil Vista was closed down. Someone told me that they're gonna turn that into a private paddle club. I don't know if you've heard anything about that.
Let's make it a two-story indoor pickle.
I've heard rumors about indoor pickleball or paddle facilities in numerous places. I don't know. It's hard to know what's actually happening and what's just talk. Yeah.
Anyhow, I just want to bring that up. I found it to be interesting. It's something that we as a commission may, years from now, have to look at, you know, if it continues to become a popular sport. The paddle seems to be much more like very active a sport, whereas where pickleball kind of like some people, I think Derek talks about, some people say that pickleball is more of a game that you play. It's a social game. Whereas paddle is high energy, high intensity. But anyways, I encourage everyone to read that article. So be up on. Yeah. Well, anyhow, that I'm just telling you what the article said. But it might be something for us to be looking at and just be aware of. You know, something that may be coming down in the future. And that's all I got.
When was it?
I don't know if it was today, but it was very recent. But if you look up PADEL, do a search, SF Gate, it's available. If there's no other commission reports,
well,
we can
I just say one thing? Because thank you, Nick, for Commissioner Baxter and I were at the Chamber of Commerce City Council debate nights ago. And the issue of the parking lot at Piper came up several times. And I did not have the answer. It was going to be one of my questions to you just because it was out there and no one could.
Yeah, it's. Sorry to interrupt. It's Julian Skinner has reached out about potential dates to do it where there'd be the least impact to camp. So we've picked some months that are doable and I told him we'll make it work because nothing can be, you know, worse than the complaints we're getting already. So yeah, so it'll happen at some point this summer. It's painful to watch $500,000 sink into a parking lot, but again, it's pretty needed, and it actually gets dangerous in the winter when it floods and there's you know foot deep water, but under that there's pretty giant potholes too, but you don't see them. So I think it's a safety issue that. Yeah.
You know, is there any discussion that when it's done, I would hope that they would look at buying it and perhaps get more purchases?
Yeah.
Because normally they would be ready.
Yes, they're going to be doing a full survey on it and looking at potentially more spots. I've brought up slanted spots, but was told that those are actually less, you get less parking, you know, five per 50 or whatever it is. So, I don't know what's going to happen, but I have a feeling it'll likely be the same. Yeah. Of course.
Anything else before we entertain a motion to adjourn?
I would make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 6.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This
Motion
meeting
passes.
is adjourned.
Who's done the voting?